Malu apa, bosku? Malu apa, bosku? Malu apa, bosku?
Bosco. Who doesn't know this name? The whole world does. Maybe not as Bosco, but as the only Prime Minister of Malaysia to be charged for corruption. Today, we will be recapping Najib's corruption trial in the SRC International case. So sit back, relax, grab some popcorn as I take you through the most important points of this case. Najib Razak was found guilty of all 7 criminal charges for having received 42 million in funds from SRC International, making him the first former Prime Minister of Malaysia to be charged and convicted. All this while, he has strongly denied his involvement in the case. He always maintained that the money was from Arab royalty. His lawyer, Shafi Abdullah, had spent the whole trial at the High Court building the case that Najib was in fact the victim of rogue bankers, and that he was taken advantage of by the one and only Jolo. You know, the guy who partied with Paris Hilton and also Leonardo DiCaprio? That guy. Documents produced during the trial showed that Najib had used his money on credit cards and to issue 17 checks to various parties, including contractors for renovation and plumbing works, as well as for media monitoring, to gain him insight into his water base. Several witnesses who took the stand spoke of the sweeping powers Najib had in SRC. While he was the advisor emeritus for SRC, he was also the finance minister. At the same time, he was also the prime minister, so he had 3 roles. During the trial, we also heard about how Najib charged 750,000 euros to his credit card in a single day. Okay, that's about 3.3 million in today's currency. That's a whole lot of money. He had bought jewelry from this Swiss-Italian jeweler called Di Grisogono. Go Google it. Allegedly, a gift for the wife of Sheikh Ahmad bin Jassim Al Thani, who was the then Prime Minister of Qatar. He also charged his credit card for shopping at a Chanel boutique in Hawaii, okay, and the Shangri-La Hotel in Bangkok. So fancy, right? After calling in 57 prosecution witnesses and 19 defense witnesses over the course of 14 months, Judge Muhammad Nazlan Muhammad Ghazali, who presided over Najib's SRC case, sentenced him to 12 years in jail and a fine of 210 million ringgit. So, all of this that I just said happened at the High Court stage. Najib was obviously not going to roll over and accept the decision. He filed for an appeal at the Court of Appeal. This is also the reason why Najib is not in Sungai Buloh. You know, your favorite questions, why is he not in Sungai Buloh? This is why. Because the court allowed a stay in execution of the sentence passed by the court. Simply put, Najib is free to go about his life until all his appeals are heard all the way up to the federal court. Unfortunately for Najib, however, the Court of Appeal upheld Judge Nazlan's decision. The court called him a national embarrassment. Kemaluan negara, okay? So memalukan. The court also said that everything that Najib did under the guise of national interest was actually for his own interest, his own benefit. Most shockingly, the Court of Appeal said Najib's justification that the money in his account came from Arab donation is straight out of the Arabian Tales. And if you don't know what the Arabian Tale is, it's a collection of folklore. You know, like Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves? Like that. Now that 4 judges have found Najib guilty, what does he do? He files to nullify the High Court's decision. Why, you ask? They are arguing that Judge Nazlan, who first sentenced Najib, had a conflict of interest. You see, Judge Nazlan used to be a legal counsel for Maybank, and Maybank was one of the lenders to SRC, hence the conflict of interest argument. Nazlan is currently also being investigated by the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission over unexplained wealth in his bank account. The prosecution, however, said that Nazlan's previous role was irrelevant. At the same time, Najib has also applied for a Queen's Counsel to represent him in his final appeal at the Federal Court. What is a Queen's Counsel, you ask? Usually, they are very senior lawyers and they are experts and leaders in their legal field. Oh, and they are usually from the United Kingdom. The court will decide on July 21st whether or not to allow a Queen's Counsel to represent Najib in his final appeal in his SRC conviction. So, Najib's appeal is now finally before the Federal Court. The court has set 10 days beginning August 15 to hear the appeal. There are 2 outcomes here. If the court doesn't uphold the Court of Appeal and the High Court's decision, Najib will be acquitted. He's a free man. He can go and do whatever he wants. However, if the court upholds the Court of Appeal and the High Court's decision, it also doesn't automatically mean Najib will be sent to prison. If the federal court sees fit, they might or they might not grant him a stay of execution pending one very final appeal. In this instance, Najib's lawyer can file a 137 review. What this means is that the federal court can reopen, rehear, re-examine its previous decisions to prevent injustice and/or abuse of the process of the court. Rule 137 has been mostly utilized to set aside decisions handed down by the federal court. Well, we will however have to wait and see what will happen during the 10 days of hearing at the federal court. That's it about Bosco. See you next time.